This is the Board of Selectmen regular meeting of Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. It is now 5:05 o'clock. The first item, I have to call the agenda. Joe Crisco, I see him. He's here. You're muted, Joe, but that's okay. No worries. Beth Heller here. Paul Kuriakose.
Here.
Thanks. David Lober. I see him too. He's here.
Yeah.
Sheila McCrevin
Here.
and David Vogel.
Here.
Administrative Officer, Director of Finance, Tony Genovese.
Here.
Assistant Administrative Officer, Betsy Yagla.
Here.
Town Council, Jerry Weiner.
Here.
Our Clerk, Jerry Shaw, is here. And our Media Specialist, Pooh Ford, is here. So we have gone through the roll call. I would ask everyone, if you're not speaking, to please mute now. And item 1 on the agenda is the first Selectmen's report. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 2022 regular Board of Selectmen meeting. I will begin this evening with the most wonderful news. The town has earned a nearly $600,000 community connectivity grant to make bike and pedestrian improvements to the town center, following a 2020 submission that Betsy worked on so very hard with volunteers Kate Rosen and Charlotte Sapo. Thank you to everyone involved. The main focus of this grant is to install a sidewalk on the western side of Newton Road to connect the Amity Regional High School to the town center campus, along with upgrading the asphalt sidewalk at the library lawn. The grant application included additional improvements to the pedestrian and cyclist safety, including signage and lighting. This grant was written with input received from more than 300 residents who responded to a bike and pedestrian improvement survey. It will help us make significant safety improvements for so many folks, particularly students, walking to and in around our town center. And as we continue to make the campus a more active destination and a place where more and more people can visit and enjoy the area. In your packet for review and hopefully approval is this commitment to fund letter, which we will discuss following my remarks. I want to let you all know about 2 changes I have made to the town's Ad hoc Diversity and Inclusion Committee. First, I have changed the name to the Ad hoc Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The addition of the word equity is important because equity aims to identify and eliminate barriers to participation. Equity is about ensuring that everyone has access to the same treatment and opportunities. Without equity, we cannot be fully inclusive, and thus we cannot embrace our diversity. Also, committee member Robert Reed has had to step down from his role as vice chair due to time commitments. He will gladly remain on the committee. In his place, I am appointing Tahira Parvez to serve as vice chair. I'm very excited about the work this group is doing, and I hope to see you all at their inaugural book discussion later this month. Betsy will share details with you as part of her report tonight. For a few months, we have just been discussing a strategic plan, and I've decided that the best way to move this project forward is to create a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen to work on the issue with Tony and Betsy. I have asked, and David Vogel and Sheila McCrevin have accepted to serve on that committee. Thank you both. Betsy has prepared a draft which is in your packet for them to review, discuss, and refine, and I'm hoping that in the next month or two, the full board will discuss and vote on a final strategic plan to help guide our work. As a board, we will be making some tough financial decisions soon. To give context to our budget process, I've asked Tony to provide me with some initial budget numbers. From 2016 to 2022, the town services portion of the budget increased by 3.04%, while at the same time, Amity Regional Board of Education increased by 20.5%, and the Woodbridge Board of Education grew by 15.32%. Our schools excel at providing the finest education for our children, but unfortunately at a somewhat high cost. As you all know, education makes up 2/3 of the town's budget. If we fund the current requested budget from all town departments and the requested 9.2% increase from the Woodbridge Board of Education and Amity's 6.63% increase, which is based on Woodbridge's portion of the enrollment, the town's mill rate will go up by 8.3%. This is obviously something we can't do. We will be meeting on February 22nd to make our capital and operating budget recommendations for FY23 to the Board of Finance. As I've said for several years, these budget issues are a direct result of the town's stagnant grand list. Assessor Marcia Benno has just finalized the grand list and it grew by only 1.7%. This is the first time in 10 years that the grand list has grown by more than 0.8%. This year's growth is primarily due to the increase in the value of motor vehicles, not something to get excited about. This growth or lack thereof does not keep up with inflation. If we want to keep our high quality education and the other services we know and love in this town, we need to grow the grand list by much more, with expansion of our commercial district and more housing. Unfortunately, this problem will only continue to grow if we continue to ignore it. I remain very concerned about our financial future. I believe that we as a board have an obligation to let voters decide on the Arbor Haven proposed $9 million project at a referendum. I've set up a meeting with the Arbor Haven folks along with Jerry and Tony for next week. I plan to discuss the feedback that we and they have received from the many boards and commissions that they have presented to over the past few months. As you know, to continue to protect Woodbridge residents and others who work, visit, shop, and enjoy many of our activities in town, I signed an emergency order in early January requiring everyone wear masks at all indoor establishments. Additionally, workplaces and public meeting spaces. Next week, I plan to review all the data to decide if it is safe to rescind the requirement. You may read the full order on the town website. Governor Lamont is planning to rescind the mask mandate for schools on February 28th. Our Human Services Department does have at-home test kits available for Woodbridge residents who are elderly, vulnerable, or disabled, and those with non-licensed childcare, which is a child taken care of by a family member or nanny, but not at a licensed daycare center. Those residents may call to request a COVID-19 at-home test kit through the Human Services Office at 389-3429. They also have N95 masks available for residents. No walk-ins available. Residents must call ahead. And lastly, I have a public service announcement for those in TV land as well as us. An American Red Cross blood drive is scheduled for Sunday, March 6th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Center Building Gymnasium. According to the American Red Cross, Connecticut has a critically low blood supply. Prior to the pandemic, a national surplus of blood products would be used to mitigate regional shortages. Currently, there is no national surplus. Every donation helps. This event is sponsored by the American Red Cross and co-hosted by the Nicole Donzello Foundation and Woodbridge Human Services. Special thanks to Human Services Director Jeanette Glixman for facilitating this event. Appointments are required. Please visit redcrossblood.org and use sponsor code NDF or call 1-800-733-2767 to make an appointment to help with this statewide blood shortage. This information will be up on our website. And I want to thank you and let's discuss it a little bit further as well in part of the meeting. So with that, we will go to item 1A. Authorize the first selectman to execute the connectivity grant. And hopefully you've all had time to read this and review it. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion that we authorize the first selectman to execute the connectivity grant. Is there?
I didn't have one quick question.
Sure.
Wasn't there a bike route involved in this grant?
There was a what?
A bike route involved in this
I think it's
connectivity
improvements
grant?
to the bike. I think it's improvements to the bike route. We already have the bike route, correct, Betsy?
So originally, when we applied for the grant, the bike route was included. When we did not get the grant, I found a significantly smaller portion of funding that we used to install the bike route. So the bike route was originally part of the submission, but it is not currently part of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I will ask for a motion to do this as before.
Well,
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions on this? Hearing none, I will call the question. David Vogel,
aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Paul Kuriakose. He's having some problems with his computer. He just texted me, so Hopefully he will sign off and sign on, but he's not here at the moment. Beth Heller, aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Thank you. And again, Betsy, thank you to you and the folks that worked on this. This is really another thing we don't have to bond for. So
It's a salary increase.
go for it in the budget, Joe. You can make that motion on February 22nd. Okay, with that, I will go to item 2, Woodbridge Board of Education Superintendent, Dr. Jonathan Budd. Good morning, John. Good morning. Good. I haven't woken. Oh gosh, I'm into it tomorrow. Good evening, and thank you and welcome.
Evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. I'd like to focus my remarks this evening. Actually, it follows up exactly on what Beth was mentioning, that this week's major news item for us, that Monday afternoon, Governor Lamont announced an upcoming end to the state mask mandate for Connecticut public schools. And just want to explain how that announcement may affect the Woodbridge School District at Beecher Road School. Masks are currently required at Beecher Road School for 3 overlapping reasons. One is the state mandate, 2, the town of Woodbridge mandate that Beth has mentioned, and 3, a Woodbridge Board of Education policy mandate. The governor has asked the Connecticut General Assembly to extend the state mask mandate from February 15th, when it currently expires, through February 28th. The General Assembly convened today and is considering the governor's request. If the state legislature decides that the state mask mandate should expire on February 28th or prior, the Woodbridge Board of Education is prepared to convene to discuss and decide whether its local policy mandate should be extended, revised, or rescinded. Currently, superintendents are awaiting much more specific information from the State Department of Education and the State Department of Public Health. For example, we are awaiting specific science-based metrics to be used in local decision-making, as well as updated mitigation guidance if masks are no longer mandated. Additionally, we are awaiting any more information on masks on school buses, which are currently required by federal law. And such information is crucial to my making any informed administrative recommendation to the Board of Education. When more information is acquired, the Board of Education will schedule its meeting and will announce as well the opportunities for public input. Please know that the voices of all community members, including all parents and guardians and staff, will be important in our local decision-making process, which is why we will announce upcoming opportunities for public input. One important request I would make is for everyone to remember that there are many different opinions on this issue, actually many different strong opinions. And when we disagree even strongly, we are still members of the same community. On this type of topic, any particular decision may be welcome to some and disappointing to others. But it's crucial, as I know you know, that we remain civil in our oral and written discourse. That's a model for our children to follow, but it also respects the humanity of everyone involved in school and town leadership and school and town government. At the end of the day, we all have the best interests of others in mind. And I know you share my goal that we keep that prominent in our thinking over the next few weeks. So I appreciate your time, everybody. Certainly happy to answer any questions on that or any other topic you may have.
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Budd?
No.
Okay, around the room with the squares. Oh, there was David.
I have a statement for Dr. Budd.
Okay.
What? Okay.
Sorry, I called on David Vogel, but I guess he's.
No, that's okay.
Let him speak.
Sorry.
Let him speak.
Okay, I didn't see you, David Lober. I'm sorry, but I
Okay.
guess
I just wanted to say, yeah, there are a lot of opinions, but science doesn't care what your opinion is, and the virus doesn't care what your opinion is. And this particular strain of virus now does affect children more than the other ones, and I think that needs to be taken into account when any discussion is made. Thanks.
Thank you.
okay, David Vogel. Sorry.
My question relates to your crystal ball, Dr. Budd. In your history as an educator, this last couple of years I know has been really hard on everybody at your school. Do you currently see any any more need for things like special education or other kinds of remedial efforts to get back on track with these kids? Is that going to affect, for example, our budget in the future? Or can you give us any hint on that?
I think we've budgeted based on the needs that we're seeing of children. And what you see in the state and the national conversations about this is true at Beecher Road School, although through the town and the board's support, we have worked to mitigate that, I would say somewhat better than some other districts, not to be critical. But my crystal ball would observe that our current kindergartners, first graders, and second graders have never had a full year of typical education in elementary school. Only our current third graders and above have even had a full year prior to this one. And we're starting to see the effects of that. And some of it is social and emotional in terms of how students interact with one another and with the adults. We're remediating the needs as best as we can. But to go to where you started, David, I would say that our staff, like all other staffs, is very, very maxed out in terms of their ability to provide for the different needs. So our board is attuned to those needs, but I don't want to imply that solving them will be easy, and it will take a lot of effort as a community over time.
Thank you.
Well,
Anyone else? I'd like the idea of a crystal ball for other things as well. If we could borrow it. Certainly a town hall as well. Okay. Thank you, my friend.
thank you, everybody. See you soon.
And with that, we'll start. Let's see, we're up to liaison reports. David Vogel,
Thank you.
welcome.
On January 24th, I attended the Recreation Department, the Recreation Commission's meeting. And I can say that we know that COVID has been very difficult, a difficult time for our town. Recreation has played a huge role in keeping people healthy during this time. The report this particular month of the commission was related to the things that recreation is doing in the winter, which largely involve the swimming pool. And the shout out was given to the staff members, to Teresa and Chris, who apparently started working the pool in 1999. Teresa has been the pool director there for 17 years. By all accounts, things are going swimmingly over there. She said that Teresa said we've opened as many spots as possible in swim lessons. Of course, there was a 2-year gap in this, so the primary goals in coming back from that have been to create as safe an environment as possible. Safety being a critical element in swimming, because if you're not safe, obviously you can drown, let alone what a virus might do to you. So we had a lot of good news to report there, and we have thanks to our wonderful staff for providing that. The personnel issue, there was an additional swim instructor hired or authorized to be hired by the commission. We also discussed the fitness center, which if the budget needs to be cut, I think the target for the Recreation Commission was the fitness center hours, or some modification there if that had to happen. The other winter activity we've got going is, of course, the skating rink over on the tennis courts. There will not be hockey on the skating rinks because the hockey sticks apparently do rip the lining that is there necessary to put the ice down. So can't do hockey, but the skating has been overwhelmingly positive. There have been a large number of people, and we've seen it on social media. And we're even anticipating, when weather permits, some of the nighttime skating with the help of the fire department and their lights. Thursday night basketball league also going well. They've cut back to a maximum of 20 people in the gym at any time, no adult spectators. They also mentioned how the badminton program has been really great. But apparently the birdies have become expensive. I don't know why that happens to be. On the financial side, their current expenses are at 54%, 54.8% of budget, which is 4.8% over where they should be at halfway through. Didn't seem to be a lot of worry about that. Of course, in these years, the recreation budget has fluctuated immensely because of the shutting off of programs, which means the shutting off of revenue as well as expense. So it's hard to look year over year in that regard, but a lot of their costs are made up in the fees that are paid. It seems like we get a really good return on investment in what the recreation is doing. There was the mention of the credit card fees, which have become much more a part of how the recreation programs are paid for. Credit cards cost us a charge when a person uses a credit card. Something like 90% of these fees are paid through credit card. But it was mentioned that there was a 4% increase in the recreation fees to account for that earlier on. So they didn't feel like it was fair to keep adding on another credit card fee since it was already sort of built in. But that begs the question as to how they might adjust their fees to account for the COVID additional expenses such as cleaning. That's all I have to report from my liaison work. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheila McCrevin.
Sure, I can give you a couple quick updates. As far as the Woodbridge Board of Ed goes, they held a special meeting on January 27th and again on January 28th, same meeting sort of reconvened to consider changes to their proposed fiscal year 23 operating budget submission. And ultimately, that was received by the joint Board of Selectmen Board of Finance meeting on February 1st. So we're aware of what they did change. The Board of Ed is meeting again tonight at 6, so in about half an hour, it looks like. And that is also a special meeting. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 21st of February. And of course, the Board of Selectmen is meeting, as Beth mentioned, to make our own recommendations on this and all the other budget proposals on Tuesday, February 22nd. So again, in my role as liaison with the Woodbridge Board of Ed, I'm going to continue to advocate that we work in partnership together to arrive at a budget that best supports the sustainable continuation of educational excellence for the children of Woodbridge. So I'll attend that meeting and then I'll be in our budget meeting on the 22nd. So then from CUPOP, CUPOP met on January 24th, and among the items they discussed was the work of the Housing Committee, as this may pertain to publicly owned property. And they wanted everyone to be aware that the housing survey is now live on the town website. If you go to woodbridgect.org and scroll down, you'll find the link to take that survey. They urge everyone to go ahead and do that. Another topic they discussed at CUPOP is litter on town property and our streets in general. And they discussed whether CUPOP should make a recommendation for the possibility of a new ordinance for the town of Woodbridge. There is a state law that prohibits littering, but they're looking at the idea of possibly an ordinance. So they'll be discussing that further at their next meeting, February 28th. But I spoke with them a little bit about how recommendations from CUPOP, if it's for something like an ordinance, normally that is weighed by the Ordinance Committee of the Board of Selectmen. And then that Ordinance Committee would decide whether to bring it to the Board of Selectmen as a recommendation for creating an ordinance. So with that in mind, I'd like to request that Mrs. Shaw poll members of the Ordinance Committee so we can determine a mutually agreeable date for the Ordinance Committee to meet. I would target the month of March, perhaps. So more news as we get closer and figure out a date for that. That's it from me.
Thank you. Do you know, or Mrs. Shaw know, who's on the Ordinance Committee from the Board of Selectmen? I just can't remember. I apologize. I know personnel because
I have the list. It's Beth, it's David Vogel, and
I
Sheila
don't think
McGrath.
I'm on ordinance this time.
I think Joe Crisco is on
Joe
ordinance.
Crisco.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
News
Yeah.
to me.
Joe Crisco,
Yeah.
David Vogel, Sheila McCrevin.
Okay. Thanks very much, Jerry. So expect a call for that. That's great. Okay. Thank you, Sheila. David Loper.
I went to the Inland Wetlands meeting. Actually, I didn't go. I attended through Zoom. There are 3 items on their agenda. 70 Bradley Road apparently has hydrocarbon pollution to be remediated by the owner prior to sale. Massaro Farm has a bridge over a stream which is washing out, and they want to repair it. They got permission for that. Merritt Avenue has evinced significant public interest, and the project warrants a public hearing after an engineering evaluation. Human Services, at the center, the population over 65 in Woodbridge is now 37%. I didn't realize it was quite that high. They're hoping to go back to in-person programming on February 14th. We'll see what happens in Hartford. They are still in need of a driver. They have applicants coming in, but none of them are suitable. They've asked Chief Capiello and Chris Sorensen to see if they can make inquiries of their contacts for a driver. They've also applied for a $25,000 ARPA grant for replacement of their vehicle, which is an old police cruiser with 170,000 miles on it. Youth Services is seeking nominations for the Youth Services Award, recipients for volunteerism. They also held 2 internet safety programs, which were well attended, and the teens at the job bank are looking for snow shoveling opportunities. Keep that in mind next time it snows. Human Services, they voted to change the job title of Senior Services Social Worker to Human Services Social Worker with an expansion of hours from the present 20 a week to 24 per week. The job consists of helping to prevent food insecurity, promoting health and wellness, facilitating aging in place, crisis intervention, and assisting with benefits applications. The cost savings in other areas will provide for the increased salary without affecting the budget. They're also, excuse me, they're also voted to establish a grievance policy, which was adapted from the state ADA policies. And this is to handle grievances from clients. They became aware of this lack of policy when they applied for a grant, and one of the stipulations was they had a grievance policy. They're doing help with tax preparation, both online and drive-by, and also in person. And the center renovation planning continues. An outdoor space will be part of the project. Conservation Commission, they had a guest speaker, Christine Sullivan, and she spoke about the roles of the regulatory agencies, the TPZ, the ZBA, and the Conservation Commission, and she answered questions. They spoke about minutes. They said minutes are history according to a memo from Betsy Yagla and should include important discussions as well as votes. The details are recorded in videos. The conservation easement offer for Country Club of Woodbridge will be presented next month by Chris Dickerson and Brian Pines. They're going to do a presentation on that. There was discussion of a tree preservation ordinance to prevent clear cutting of trees for development as well as on existing lots. Such ordinances are in effect in other towns, and they'll present that to the Board of Selectmen for referral to the Ordinance Committee. They're initiating a trail challenge to promote the use and awareness of open space in town. It would involve recording individuals' use and accumulating points towards recognition. The trails would be maintained and passable, and information can be found on the woodbridgetrails.org website. On Merritt Avenue, there was a visit by the members of the Conservation Commission to the site to help decide the location of the open space, ideally with trail continuity between existing routes from New Haven and to the West River. And on the Arbor Haven review, the Country Club of, the Conservation Commission members were disheartened to have spent time and effort and not have had their views considered at the last meeting. And that's all I have.
We're going to pass those views along from conservation to Arbor Haven, David. Okay, Paul Kiriakos.
Hi, everybody. The EDC Commission is meeting tomorrow evening, and the Amity Board of Ed will meet on Monday evening. So I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Paul. And Joe Crisco.
Well, thank you. I
Welcome.
attended the January 20th regular meeting of the Police Commission. The commission went into executive session at the first point of business, and then they reported that by roll call to extend an offer of employment to Stefano Moriello for the position of certified police officer contingent upon the successful completion of the pre-employment physical exam and drug testing results. In regards to review of reports, financial report, the chief reported that they're right on target, and they're also waiting for pending grant reimbursements of approximately $26,000 to offset overtime costs. The chief gave an activity report. There are like 11 different types of criminal activities and the type. And if anybody would like a copy of those, I gladly send it to them. Report of the chief of police. He also gave a motor vehicle activity report. There was a COVID-19 update, and he stated on January 3rd that the police department, along with Betsy Yaglu from the town hall and staff from Woodbridge Human Services, worked together to conduct a very successful drive-through distribution of N95 masks and COVID-19 at-home rapid test kits. The chief also reported that there is an upgrade on their IT system network, which will be of great benefit. In regards to personnel matters, there was a letter, a certificate of commendation to Officer Matthew Lima for an incident in regards to carjacking on Lucy Street. The Chief Capella acknowledged the actions of the incident and praised the officers for a job well done. Promotional exam update. There will be a promotional exam for the position of sergeant to fill the vacancy created by the retirement of Sergeant Thomas, and that will be officially scheduled. In regards to the budget, Chief Capiello and the deputy chief met with the budget subcommittee and to review the proposed budget, and the board gave final approval of the proposed budget. And that is the conclusion of the police commission, but the traffic authority also met. There was a concern by numerous people, residents, that there's a stretch of Johnson Road that connects Ansonia Road and Rimmon Road, and there are numerous children living there, and they asked the police chief for a better review of the speed limit and the speed activity by residents. Let's see. The chief also reported that there's a traffic signal light update. There will be proactivity by replacing various signal lights on highway access in town, and there are 6 lights in our town that will be changed. And then that was the adjournment of the regular session for that meeting. Thank you. Can't hear you.
Good idea to unmute myself. Thank you. I just got an ask from Jerry Shaw that the Massaro folks are here and they would like to, if possible, join us now. I have to ask permission from the board. Does anyone have any objection? It is actually item number 7. It's a request TPZ to conduct a review of the proposed pavilion for the Massaro Farm pursuant to the general statutes 8-24. Both Bob Tucker and Katie Poole are here, I believe. Does anyone have any objection to that if we pop them in? Hearing no objections, we will move to item 7. And with that, Jerry, bring them in. Please.
Hi, this is Bob Tucker.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, just had to close my door.
No worries. I see Katie is on as well. Hi, Katie.
Hello, Bob, you might want to turn, oh, there you go.
So we have in our packet the drawing of the Learning Garden Pavilion, and perhaps you'd just like to give us a walkthrough, a quick one, no pun intended, but virtually. And then we'll ask the board, if you don't mind entertaining some questions, and then we'll make a decision following that. So thank you.
So I'll just preface Bob's description of what we're doing by saying we're very pleased to see a growth in interest in outdoor programming. There's been a strong demand even before the pandemic, but especially since the pandemic, to escape inside spaces, and we're happy to have the space to entertain lots of healthy social distancing, lots of family and particularly youth-oriented activities. The other thing we've also seen on the farm is a growth in our farm staff, particularly more things like fixed staff, but also a summer youth employment program, which has been gaining momentum over the last 2 years, which means we're bringing high schoolers in to supplement the work of the farm staff. And one of the things that's of great interest in the agricultural community is making sure that your staff have adequate place and shade to rest. And of course, with the pandemic, also places where they can spread apart and safely eat their lunch and have breaks. So this pavilion is going to serve a number of purposes for us. Yes, there's going to be lots of year-round programming. The proposed location is right inside our newer permeable parking area. So it kind of creates a focal point and a central gathering spot so that when people are arriving, they kind of walk in and there's something right there, which is much easier because people will tend to wander around and look for what's going on. So creating that and being able to create some dedicated directional signage, I think will really help arrivals at the farm as well as support our farm staff. So that's just a little bit of overview. With that, I'll let Bob describe just sort of the location and what we're planning.
Sure. I assume you all have the packets. I can.
We do.
I don't know if you want me to share it on my screen, but it's fairly simple. It's a simple timber pavilion. It's going to be built with some actually reclaimed timber from a supplier here in Connecticut, and it is located behind the barn, and it'll be about 150 feet from the road. It's about 60 feet from the back of the barn and in that learning garden area. We'll have hopefully some solar panels on the roof, and we're planning to have space for a couple of composting toilets as both a amenity for visitors and for farm staff.
Does anyone have any questions of Kate? Excuse me, Katie or Bob? I think this looks very great. It's good. It's good stuff. So with that, I will entertain a motion that the board, per statute, will forward to town planning zoning, conduct a review of the proposed pavilion for Massaro Farm pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 824. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank
Oh.
you. Any other comments or questions on the motion?
So for both Bob and I, can we just clarify then this 824 process always kind of throws me a little bit. So can someone just speak to process so we know exactly which steps we're taking to do the right approval?
Here's Mr. Weiner, our town council.
So you don't need to take any steps. We've already forwarded the proposal. Chris Sullivan had it, or has it, or should have it, and it goes directly to P&Z. P&Z looks at it, and they either approve it or they disapprove it. The statute says any substantial improvement of any town-owned property must be submitted to the P and Z for approval. We've been very liberal in making certain that P and Z gets a chance to review and look at almost all improvements to town property. I don't remember, I can't recall when they decided not to. So chances.
Okay, so is there any coming back to this group then, once they go through their process and we talk with them?
Just comes
We have
back
to
to
come.
planning and zoning to the Board of Selectmen. If it's approved, there's no action that the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. All
You
right,
might want to check with, you might just want to check with Christine to make sure whether or not you need to be in attendance or not virtually, obviously, the night that they decide to look at it. But it's a great thing, and I can't imagine why there'd be a problem. But if they had questions, she'll let you know whether you need to be there or not.
sure, okay.
I'll be in touch with her.
Great. So I believe we have a motion and a second. Okay, Joe Crisco,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kurikos was here. He's still here. He's muted. Maybe he'll be back. David Lober,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
David Vogel,
Aye.
and Paul's still muted. He's having issues with his computer tonight. Okay, guys, congratulations. On to the
Thank you.
next step, and thank you for this. Wonderful.
All right.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, with that, we're back to the regular part of the agenda, which is, I'm watching the clock, it's not 6 yet. So we can get number 4 in. 2022 JAG Local VCP Grant Program. Authorize the first selectman to execute the notice of grant award, which is in your packet, and assurances and certifications. Police Commission authorized applying for this grant. And I'm just going to flip back in my book. Tony, do you have anything further to add? It was fairly self-explanatory in the packet. I didn't know if you had any.
Yeah, I'll just mention that they're purchasing mobile data terminals, modems, keyboards, and crash recreation software. And the mobile data terminals, modems, and keyboards in particular would be something we would have to pay for out of our budget there. I know they're in desperate need of replacement. They're quite old, so
Yeah,
this is actually a good thing. So.
thank you. I'll motion this and then we can have a discussion and questions. I'll make a motion that we authorize the first selectman, can I do that? To execute notice of grant award. The amount is $25,000. And we have a copy of it, as I said, in our packet. It's a notice of grant reward and assurances and certifications. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And with that, anyone have any questions for Tony or anyone else? Hearing none. Great. Joe Crisco.
Yes.
Oh.
Aye.
Beth Heller. Aye. Paul Kurikos.
Paul Kyriakos, aye.
He's still here, but he's not here. I guess he's.
Paul Kyriakos, aye.
Okay, great, Paul. Great, got you. Thank you. Did you do aye on the other one as well for Massaro? I couldn't hear you.
No, I got disconnected.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
Sorry.
thanks, Paul. No worries. David Lober,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
and David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. All right, with that, it's still not 6 o'clock. We have 15 minutes. Why don't we go to item 6, Administrative Officer, Director of Finances report. Number A is the monthly report. Take it away, Tony.
Thank you, Beth. Hello, everyone. The monthly report for through January is a budgetary surplus of a little over $350,000. The town budget includes an allocation, as you all know, from fund balance of $400,000. So that would mean if this carried through to the end of the year, we'd have a small reduction in our fund balance at the end of the year. The fund balance is projected to be a little under 13% of our annual expenses at the conclusion of the year with this estimate. Some of our highlights are intergovernmental revenue. Of course, we've discussed a surplus, $172,000, most of which comes from FEMA award for the storm that we had a year ago this past August. And we did receive some pilot funds that we weren't anticipating for $15,000. The FEMA award was $164,000 in total. we should have a small shortfall in citation grant funds. Those are grant funds for tickets and other citations that are issued by the police department. Those citation money goes to the state and then we get a percentage back. That is actually a little bit on the rise in recent months. Investment income continues to do poorly, although I hear there may be some rate increases in the near future that would impact our interest rates in particular because we have a lot of short-term investments. Finally, charge for services is a projected surplus of $157,000. There is so far a small surplus in transfer station fees of $10,000, although this month we started the bulky waste permit fee amount. So I'm curious as to see either whether that generates fee revenue or we see a decline in bulky waste tonnage, which could also be depending on where that tonnage was coming from. And so I'll give you an update after we get a few months of data just to show you sort of where we're headed on that and what the general feeling has been so far. The one risk with that could be the people leaving stuff on the side of the road, although we haven't seen that. And so I'll let you know if that's happening also. We have a big surplus in building permits. That's $155,000. Most of that is from a regional water authority permit for the treatment plant that they are working on. So those are some of the revenue highlights. Revenues are doing quite well this year so far. On our expenditures, Board of Finance has a surplus of $3,600. That's because we paid a lower than anticipated when we went out to bid for our audit. The contingency also hasn't been used yet so far this year. There's a small request this month, but other than that, so far we've been doing very well on our contingency. I think most departments know that the contingency is really for emergency purposes only, and we tend to control that very well. The center building is projected to generate a surplus of $5,000. We should into our savings in electricity. We have some of our efficiency upgrades to our lighting is paid off starting this year with some of the facilities, and so we're starting to see the savings that we had planned for when we originally upgraded our lighting to LED lighting. For those of you who weren't on the board at the time, the town paid an interest-free loan to UI to install the LED lighting in some of our buildings, and the savings in the electricity was paid off the loan. It was sort of balanced so that the loan amount was equal to the savings amount, so there was no cash flow difference. And so each one ends at a certain time, and so we'll start to see that over the next year or so. Our building official has a surplus of $22,000 so far for the year. In public works, we're sort of monitoring that closely. I think so far the department is able to handle the amount of overtime that has happened and materials, but we're sort of keep a close eye on that. And I think if we have any more storm events, we may have to seek other sources of funding, which is one main reason why we do not touch contingency until the snow season has passed us, because some years we use quite a bit from contingency. The library is projecting a surplus of about $36,000. That's mainly due to a savings in wages and the timing of their programming when they brought that back online versus their estimate and their budget. And finally, our benefits have a slight surplus of $20,000. So those are our highlights for the year thus far.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone have any questions on the monthly report? Thank you. The next B is funding requests. And the first one is getting there, sorry. It's actually a line item transfer. 2122-07, the amount of $2,000. I'll motion that we approve this. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And Tony, would you like to explain it? Maybe ask some questions for the board take some questions if they have them. Sorry.
Certainly. So what is being requested? I'll just give a little explanation, and then if anyone has any questions. The Human Services charges a fee for their lunch program, and frozen, and this particular one is their frozen meal delivery program. And because there's an increase in usage, they're getting increases in fees. And so they would like to offset the increase in fees, have offset the increase in expenditures to actually purchase the meals. So it's a wash. It doesn't really impact the budget. You're increasing the fee revenue to offset the increase in expenditures. So it's just more of an accounting, keeping track of the revenues and expenditures separately for this particular program. The same would apply, as David indicated earlier, the same would apply for recreation. So if recreation had a shortfall this year for any reason, but they had did well with fee revenue, you could increase their fee revenue budget to make up for that shortfall in their expenditures. So.
Anyone have any questions for Tony on this? Hearing none, I will call the question. David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you. Sheila McCrevin. David Lober.
Aye.
Paul Kyriakos.
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. And Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Next item in this funding request is requesting for funding 21-22-08 in the amount of $4,510. We probably need an explanation on the pool issue, Tony, before we motion or anything, if that's okay.
They're the earlier next in the agenda. They're actually not really related.
Oh, okay. So this is to cover additional repairs to the filtration system.
This is right. So I will, if you want to make a motion, then I can explain.
Okay, I will make that motion that we approve funding request 21-22-08 in the amount of $4,510. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Okay.
So when we were planning for this year's budget for COVID purposes, we had to estimate in a number of departments what we thought the usage would be in each of the departments, and one was the pool. And so we didn't quite estimate enough for maintenance supplies. That's half of it for to keep the pool running, as it was indicated earlier. Once again, there's a lot of usage in the pool. It's going well, and so in terms of usage anyway. And so we have to increase the budget a little bit there. There's also a number of leaky valves that Brad would like to fix. They're not major leaks, but something he'd like to take care of that he can do on his own. He can fix them on his own. He's mainly going to buy parts and stuff. So those are this is more of an operate maintenance type of a request.
Okay. Thank you. And it's not really, it is still the pool, but it's not related to the Beecher Road pool update, correct?
It's the Beecher Road pool update is more of a longer range sort of issue that is developed.
All right. So I'll get to that after on the agenda. Great. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions for Tony? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kyriakos.
Aye.
David Lober.
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin.
Aye.
And David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you. All righty then. Tax refunds. You have in your packet a summary for the month of February 2022 for the refund of property taxes per section 12-124 to 129. Request from the tax collector, Pat Crisco. There are no personal property refunds this month. Real estate refunds for $8,870.72. And there are motor vehicle refunds for $5,289.56 for a total of, for February of 2022, or $14,160.28. Is there a motion to approve these refunds?
So moved.
Thank you. Is anybody out there?
Second.
It's like Jeopardy. We're trying to get the button.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay, thanks, guys. Any questions on this? Okay, we'll start at the, I don't know. Well, let's start in the middle this time. Paul Kyriakos.
Aye.
David Lober.
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin.
Aye.
David Lober.
Aye, David Vogel.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, sorry, that's what happens when I go in the middle, I get confused. Beth Heller, I, and Paul Curie, say Joe Crisco?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I screwed it up. Thanks, guys. Okay, and then, Tony, item D is update regarding possible town offices, the voice over IP phone system. Thank you.
This is just more of an FYI. We're looking into the possibility of converting to voice over IP for our phone system. The last time we replaced it was 2003, roughly. And the phone system is doing okay. But we're looking to see if there would be any savings on an operating basis and what type of equipment we would need. And so we'll get back to you on that. We are on the CEN network, which is the fiber network for the state of Connecticut. So we have sort of it's really a direct connect to any equipment or any the main location of all the equipment that if we were to do this. It would be one option is remote, another option is to have the equipment on site. So there's a number of decisions here. I just thought I'd mention that's something we're looking into. If anyone has any questions or like to, contact, feel free to contact me at any point, or any questions now, I can certainly try to answer them. We're hopeful that we can save, quite a bit of money on a monthly basis by switching. That's sort of the main focus here.
Any questions for Tony on that? Okay, I don't see anybody. Okay, thank you.
Next,
Yep, the Beecher Road School.
so
Update.
it's the pool update. So we've had, we've seen on some background here, back about 2009, we installed these drains in the bottom of the pool to comply with, it was called the Virginia Graham Baker Act, where a child got stuck on a pool drain. And so we had to install these covers. In any event, one of them is starting to leak just a little. So we're monitoring the leak. It's not major, at least in appearance, but we have to probably in sort of the end of March, we're looking to drain the pool and investigate it from the inside to make sure there are no major problems. See if we can fix the leak on a temporary basis, or if there's more of a fix required. We have a pool expert that's helping us to evaluate the leak. So I thought I'd mention that. We're going to get a sort of an evaluation of the pool at that time also, to see if there are any other issues. The pool is, I believe, 50 years old, although they could last much longer. So we'll give you an update when we have more information. Hopefully it's nothing major, but I just wanted to mention that to you.
So my understanding is, Tony, is that the pool is still being used and it's safe.
Yeah, it's not a major leak. It's safe. Yeah, it's just a little weeping. It's just a little moisture. It's not like it's dripping or anything.
Right.
Right.
Anyone have any questions on that issue? I think we're okay there. Okay, is there an other, Tony?
I do have another, actually.
I
So
love other.
the governor released his budget today. And so I have a sort of an early snapshot of Woodbridge. And most of our grant funding is approximately the same. So we haven't lost any grant funding. There's a slight increase proposed in ECS. I think it was about $30,000 around there. But the major issue we're keeping an eye on is the governor's proposed lowering the motor vehicle cap from 45 mils. Sheila, you remember this from a few years ago, right? We're lowering it from 45 mils to 29 mils. So what that effectively would mean is we could not have a mill rate of higher than 29 on our motor vehicles.
Okay.
So under normal circumstances, that would shift the tax burden to real estate, because you still have to collect the taxes, right? So if the motor vehicles are down to 29, you have to increase the mill rate on personal property and on residential to account for that drop in the mill rate on motor vehicles. Well, the governor has proposed to give Woodbridge $1.3 million in funds to offset that, so that we don't have to do that. So the property tax mill rate can stay wherever it's set, and the state would pay for that drop in the mill rate on motor vehicles. Will we ever see that $1.3 million? I'm not really sure. The track record necessarily there is not great, because this has been proposed before and we did not see any motor vehicle revenue reimbursement. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll certainly let you know how that pans out.
Yikes. Wow, what perfect timing. It's exactly 6 o'clock. Wonderful. Okay, with that, Jerry Shaw, we're now in public comments. Have you received any public comments as of 3 p.m. today?
I have not received any by email. I
Okay.
see there are 2 people listed with their hands raised,
Okay,
so they evidently want to make a public comment.
okay, thank you. Perhaps you could let them both in and I'll just remind them of 2 minutes each, but thank you.
Just a moment.
No worries.
Sorry for the delay, Daniel. Daniel Cowan, you have a public comment? I've unmuted you.
Okay. Yes, I do. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As many of you have heard,
Daniel, this is Beth Heller. Just quickly, you have to state your name and address, and just I remind you, in the interest of time, if you could keep it to 2 minutes if possible, please.
yes,
Name and address. Thank you, my friend.
Daniel Cowan, 33 Wedgewood Drive in Woodbridge. So as many of you heard, our governor and our legislature is having a conversation over the next few days about whether or not we will be renewing executive orders. I know that our town has several executive orders in place, and those executive orders will cause our boards of education to not have the authority that the governor wishes to give to them. And so I would like to urge you to add to your meeting agenda, a discussion of the sunsetting of all executive orders in the town of Woodbridge. I think that we can, I would like to say personally, I'm very emotionally upset about these orders. I feel that, if you have an idea that's so good, you don't need to force yourself on somebody to do something. When you force yourself on somebody, you know exactly what that is. That's an assault. And we've been assaulted for the last 2 years by many of the executive orders issued by yourself and by other people. And when you force yourself upon somebody, you take away from them the ability to voluntarily give to somebody else. So you take away my ability to choose to give consideration in charity to my fellow town resident. And you instead force me to do something. It's no different than theft. It's no different than rape or any other kind of forcible act. So when you force somebody to do something, that is bad. And you know it's bad. And the governor has now seen that. We also know, due to the recently published Johns Hopkins studies, that the lockdown and mitigation strategies have had little to no effect in improving public health. That could be seen at krieger.jhu.edu. And the comment from the analysis there was, while the meta-analysis concludes that the lockdowns have had little to no public health effects, they've imposed enormous economic and social costs where they've been adopted. In consequence, lockdown policies are ill-founded and should be rejected as a pandemic policy instrument. So as a father of a child, I see that we're going to have years of psychological effects from our children. And like, people always make a claim that children are resilient, will take care of it, but it's obviously not the case. So I urge you as a town board, and especially as town executive, to cease your executive orders and allow us to use our public buildings as they were intended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel
Yes.
Pete just, Daniel Pete Preet just disappeared.
I'm still here.
Oh, you are? Oh, very good.
Oh.
Hi there. Good evening. Welcome to
Good evening. How are you?
Oh yeah, there you are, face and all. Good evening. Just
Good
state
evening.
name and address, please, for the record, and then if you could try to keep it to 2 minutes, I appreciate it. The board would. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Daniel Delpreet, 11 Maple Vale Drive, Woodbridge, Connecticut. I'm here tonight just to make a statement. So I've brought up prior to last year's board of the budget meeting, just discussing the town charter. I don't know the last time the town charter was revised. I asked the town attorney last year. He couldn't tell me as well, but just seeing and looking now, I know the housing survey went out. The town is being developed. Even the way that we're hosting this meeting, everything is far advanced and been brought up to the times, for lack of a better phrase. But when I look at the charter and think about the charters was written a long time ago, and I would like to request this board and yourself, First Selectman Heller, I challenge you folks to open up the charter, to create a town charter revision, a revision committee, and go and take some suggestions across the town to see if we could update our charter for the way we govern ourselves, because the way we live is not reflected properly in our charter. So I task this board and yourself, hopefully and respectfully, to create a charter revision. And then, for what it's worth in my time here now, I would like to personally be involved in that as a taxpayer in the town of Woodbridge. And that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jerry Shaw?
Just double checking.
Okay.
No, I have no one else.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, we will move on. We did number 7, so the TPZ thing. Now we're up to item 8, the American Rescue Plan Act. Update from Tony and Betsy, please.
Thank you. So the American Rescue Plan, just some background for you. We handed out in your package the sort of some of the major topics that we've been collecting for ideas from various folks. And so those are some project suggestions that are listed, which include investments in the business district, town campus beautification, which includes not only the campus, but facilities, ventilation upgrades to town buildings, playgrounds and recreation, field upgrades, IT and cybersecurity, and emergency and nonprofit relief. So what we'd like to do is we're hoping that the sort of the strategic plan will provide some guidance here with the funding for the ARPA funds. And once we have some guidance from the strategic plan, that we could have a process where the selectmen would recommend projects. We'd get some input from the town residents and come up with a list of projects and funding ideas. Once we do that, we have to follow our appropriations process for funding for whatever projects we do. So there would probably most likely be a town meeting involved to approve these projects. So we just wanted to provide that for your review. The federal government has instituted a final rule, and so there is a final rule that provides more direction on how the funds can be used and for what purposes. There was also more clarification on the revenue reimbursement portion, which includes a $10 million, up to a $10 million sort of $10 million amount is sort of like a automatic amount. Anything up to that you can include as your revenue reimbursement. So we can consider that as well. And the funds have to be committed by the end of 2024. Committed means have some sort of contract or purchase order or something committing the funds, and then completely spent by 2026. We've received half of our $2.6 million allotment, which is 1.3 million, and we should receive the other 1.3 by the end of June. So whenever it comes to grant funds like this, I would not spend the money until we actually receive the money, which is it would be in full by the end of this fiscal year. So that's sort of where we are with the American Rescue Plan. A lot of towns are starting to spend their funds, so we're getting a lot of good ideas, and so we should start to move on this. hopefully in the next 2-3 months.
Betsy, do you have anything to add to Tony's report on that?
No, that summarizes what we've discussed.
Okay, great. Anyone have any questions for Tony and or Betsy on that part? Okay, with that, that's a nice segue into the Assistant Administrative Officer's report. Betsy.
So before we, thank you, Beth. Before we get into the 3 requests for events on town property, I'll just quickly mention a few other things. In Beth's opening remarks, she mentioned a book discussion by the Ad Hoc Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. They are starting a series of talks called Mosaic, Woodbridge Reading and Community. And the goal is to enrich residents' understanding of the current and historical diversity of our community, state, and nation. And the first event will be held virtually on February 24th at 7 p.m. And the discussion will be centered around the new book, The 1619 Project. And there are more details on the town website. There's also a Facebook event on the town's Facebook page. And the link to the event can be found in both spots, the town website and the Facebook page. And at the end of the event, I believe they're planning on choosing the next book that will be discussed sometime in the spring. So I think they're still working out the frequency of these events, but they're thinking right now maybe 3 to 4 times a year. The other thing I wanted to update you all on is on the transfer station. So as you know, we've been working on a comprehensive plan to save money at the transfer station. So far, we've increased the tip fee for trash, the tip fee for bulky waste, which started February 1, as Tony mentioned. As you all know, we're also looking at a possible pay as you throw program. And as of earlier this week, there's now a glass recycling container at the transfer station. The problem with glass, is that broken glass is a main source of contamination, and broken glass particles attach themselves to other recyclable materials, which contaminates and reduces their market value. Non-broken glass is also contaminated with other bits of recycling, like small pieces of paper, bottle caps, metal, straws. So there's a cost to clean that glass in order for it to be properly recycled. And oftentimes, because it's costly and time consuming to clean the glass, it never ends up actually being recycled. So glass is a main problem in the recycling. So we're starting a pilot program, and we have a glass bin. And removing glass from the rest of our recycling should help make our recycling more marketable and also reduce the amount of that we're paying to get rid of our recycling. So residents who frequent the the transfer station can use the bin to separate their clean food and drink glass bottles and jars, no lids or bottle caps, please. And glass will be sent off to one of 2 Connecticut companies for recycling. So it's a win-win. So that started sometime this week.
Beth, I just want to mention something real quick. I forgot to mention to you. The glass that's recycled, there is a developing market to use crushed glass in like concrete and asphalt and other products. So that's hopefully the direction that's headed.
What happens if you have trash pickup at your home? So do you separate it for your hauler? Or
not currently. We may be moving in that direction, but right now we're just starting with glass at the transfer station.
But if I wanted to do it as a good citizen, I could put my glass in a separate bin and take it up there, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
On my own. Okay.
Betsy, when you say metal, is that like those little remaining pieces off of a soda bottle when you unscrew the cap, there's a tiny shred of metal? That seems to be really annoying to try to get off.
It is, yeah. So anything that's not glass that is on glass is problematic for recycling the glass. So it's tedious, but putting it in the recycling contaminates the recycling.
It sounds like that's going to require quite a bit of education on the public for the public's consumption.
Yes, yes, single stream recycling is incredibly easy, and going in the opposite direction is not going to be easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Betsy, can I ask a quick question too? So if it's a jar that you're putting in and it has a paper label on it, you need to get that label off before you put it into
Yes.
your glass, and no lid. Okay.
No lid, yeah, paper off, and no food remains
Yeah,
inside.
clean the jar out. That's the other thing, is to clean the jar. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds
Yeah.
like a challenge, but I bet the residents of Woodbridge will accept that challenge.
Hopefully, yes. um, so that's it for my update, except for the 3 event applications in the packet that you've received. So you should have received one for Bethwood Baseball. This is their 50th year in existence. And they are hoping to hold an event on the 30th of April from 10 to 1 for their annual opening day ceremony. Anybody have any questions about that application?
Hearing no questions, I will move approval of the application to hold the event with the Bethwood Baseball on April 30th, 2022, with all the stipulations that are included in the application, which has really made our lives a lot easier, by the way, Betsy. Thank you for this program. I remember it was so hard getting all the questions asked last time, so thank you for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this one? 50 years. Oof. Wow, it's going to be exciting. Okay, with that, I'm going to stay in order now and not screw this up. All in favor, Joe Crisco,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, Paul Kurikos,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
and David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the first one.
Thank you. The second request that we have comes from me. I'm working with the town's ad hoc community council to plan an Earth Day event on the previous Saturday. So that's Saturday, April 23rd in the morning. And this will be somewhat similar to the event that we did last year. We had some different trucks available for people to recycle things that we cannot usually recycle at the transfer station. There were some informational tables, and we also included Red Letter Day. And I believe the library is planning, the Friends of the Library are planning on also doing a book sale and a book donation event, which was very popular last year.
Anybody have any questions on this one? I'll accept a motion to approve the application to hold the Town of Woodbridge Ad hoc Community Council's event as described in the packet on April 23rd, 2022, from 9 to 1. Someone want to make the motion?
Oh,
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
A second.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments for Betsy? Okay. David Vogel,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Paul Kurikos,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Thank you. One more,
And the
Betsy.
last application in your packet comes from the town's Human Services Department. They are partnering, as Beth mentioned in her comments earlier today, they are partnering with the Red Cross and the Nicole Donzello Foundation to hold a blood drive on Sunday, March 5th. And the goal is to help restore historically low blood reserves in the state.
Thank you. I will motion that we approve the application to hold the Woodbridge Human Services event on March 5th. Is it the 5th or the 6th?
You know, I think that she filled it out as the 5th, but she
That's a
intended to say
typo.
the 6th. I know it was a Sunday.
I remember saying 6th in my opening remarks. It's definitely whatever that Sunday is for sure. And
You're right, it's the 6th.
for the blood drive, as described in the packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Any other, this is great. Any other comments or questions on this one? All in favor, Joe Crisco,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, Paul Kurikos,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
and David Vogel. Thank you. And I
Thank
think
you.
that's it. Thank you. And with that, we move on to item 10, which is Town Council's report. Jerry Weiner, an update on the siting council and anything else you have for us.
So I thought that I would give everyone an update on what's happening with the siting council's decision to authorize a cell tower at 118 Newton Road. At a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, I gave it some second session a month ago or 2 months ago.
Is it my computer or are we having trouble here? It must be me, right?
No.
No.
Jerry, we can't hear you. Okay.
How about now? Any better?
Yes.
Better.
Oh, I got to speak up. Okay.
Yeah.
The selectmen authorized the town to have its attorneys enter an appeal together with the neighborhood group that formed in opposition to the Verizon proposal. We did engage our lawyer, his name is Nick Amandi, to file the appeal for the town. Nick had several conversations with the neighborhood's lawyer, and they both agreed that the proper way for the town to become a participant in the case was to file what is known as an intervening complaint, the appeal of the neighborhood. So the neighbors have officially filed an appeal. The town, as of February 7th, prepared a draft verified intervening complaint. I reviewed it, Beth reviewed it, and Beth just today signed an application that the town needs to sign authorizing the filing of the intervening complaint. We sent that off to council. I would suspect tomorrow the intervening complaint will be filed and we will be officially a party in the appeal of the siting council's decision. The siting council decided on, December 16th to deny to approve Verizon's application. 4 council members voted in favor of the project, while 2 members of the council voted to deny the project, since it was the belief of those 2 council members that the town presented a viable alternate to Verizon's proposal, a town-owned property at 15 Meeting House Lane behind the Public Works facility. So the appeal is just beginning. This could take 6 months. It goes to a Superior Court judge. It could take 6 months to a year for a final decision. I don't know about the exact timeline, but I will keep you all advised as to the progress of the town. We have advised our council to try and be very prudent with the costs that the town will obviously have to pay council the intervening of this complaint. Happy to answer any questions about this siting council appeal. And if anybody would like a copy of the verified petition that will be filed by the town, I will be happy to supply that to them. Okay, and if there's nothing else on siting council, that's all I have except for what we have listed in executive session.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay. Item 11 is acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report. You have it in your packet. I will make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's reports in our packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, David.
I had a question. I had a quick
Sure.
question. Just, what's the state conveyance and the town conveyance tax? What's the source of that?
The purchaser of real estate in Connecticut pays a conveyance tax. Well, it's paid actually by the seller, but it's included in the cost that the buyer pays. So the seller has an obligation to pay conveyance tax and revenue services tax. We get one of the taxes. One of the taxes goes to the state of Connecticut.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and a second? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, guys. All right. Any other questions on this? Okay, with that, motion to approve. David Vogel,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Paul Kyriakos,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
It'll be all nice when we're back in a room and we can all raise our hands. Oh,
Absolutely.
all this time. Oh, man.
$5,000.
Be so great. Okay, next on the agenda is the minutes of, let's see, you have in your packet a copy of the Board of Selectmen regular meeting of January 12th, 2022, regular minutes. I will move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone have any edits, comments, changes?
Yeah, I have some comments on this.
Okay, David, you're up.
Okay. I don't want you folks to take this the wrong way, but in the public comments,
Can you tell me the page? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, page, what is this? Page 4 of 7.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in public comments, it says that letters were read from, and you list all of the people from whom letters were read, and these were, I believe, concerning the siting council. Okay,
Right.
there were a number of other letters that were submitted with our packet, and they were in support of the Conservation Commission, the memorandum that they had written and sent to the board in support of opposition to the Arbor Haven development. Those were not read.
Were they, I did not know that I was supposed to read them. They didn't come as public comments. So these folks actually wrote to me individually and said, please read these as part of the record for that night. So that's why we put them in correspondence for the board.
I mean, this is a big issue. We should try to get all of the information out in front of the public because, you know, eventually you're going to ask them to vote and they have to be informed. And I think that we have an obligation to do so. Also, the memorandum that was specifically sent to the board was also never mentioned at that meeting.
You had read it, I believe, at your meeting.
I did, yes, but
Correct.
it was submitted officially
Right.
to our last meeting and it was never mentioned.
Okay, well, it's in the packet. And you had read it previously.
The public.
Are you correcting the minutes or are you just having a comment on the way that the minutes are? You really,
I think this should be added to the minutes as a record because the public doesn't have access
they
to.
are in the packet. They are in the packet.
So does the public have access to everything in our packet?
Absolutely. Yep. I
Yes,
believe-
David, these minutes with all attachments are filed with the town clerk's office and they're put on the website so people can see them. I mean, that,
I understand that the minutes are, yes, the minutes are a record, but the rest of what we have in our packet may not be available to the public. That's my question.
no, everything that's attached to the minutes and all those comments are, I believe, are in there. There are some in
No,
there.
no, those letters were not read. They're not.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. You're talking
Yeah.
about everything with
Yeah.
the conservation. Okay, that's for somebody else to figure out.
I mean, for me, that's problematic, and for the board, it was problematic as well. And since we don't have public meetings and we don't have, you know, much in the way of public comment anymore, I think we should make more of an effort to get these opposing opinions out.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Do you have any comments or edits for the minutes?
Are
Changes?
we going to then attach that document to the minutes as well, since that's how you get it into the public record, or?
We can add them to the minutes going forward.
I would,
I didn't realize correspondence didn't go as part of the public record.
right, well, I just, I move that we move that report somehow.
Wait. We have a motion and a second, and now we're doing the minutes, and then we can, okay.
Well, I would, the motion to amend the minutes would be to add that report as part of the minutes. Receive, a report that was received from a commission.
Right, so that could be a friendly amendment to the motion to approve?
Sure,
I didn't make the motion though, so.
I did. I will accept that as a friendly amendment, and we will put it as all of those attached to the actual minutes that are up on the, when they're filed. Because they will be approved, hopefully.
Yeah.
Who seconded that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes with the friendly amendment. Thank you. Any other comments or edits or changes? Hearing none. David Vogel,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
David Lober,
Aye.
Paul Kurikos,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That is that. Minutes. Okay, resignations. This month we have resignation of Sosensky, from the Inland Wetlands Agency alternate through June 30th, 2025. Matt Schwartz from the Governor Access TV through June 30th, 2023. Deborah Freed from the Police Commission, June 30th, 2023. And John Labianic from Human Services, June 30th, 2023. I will just say we accept these resignations with regret, and we wish them all best of luck, and sorry to see them all leave. And with that, we move on to item 14, which is appointments to the Inland Wetlands Agency alternate through June 30th, 2023. So this is a little bit over. There's a vacancy created last month or this month actually, when Stephen Sosensky resigned. So those are in your packet, by the way. So with that, I will call on, let's see, where are we? David Vogel, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Nick Zito for that position.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Frank DeLeo. Frank is both the chairman of the West River Restoration and Flood Mitigation Committee and an active member of the steering committee of the West River Watershed Coalition. And he previously served on the Woodbridge Conservation Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? There are none. Okay, with that, we'll start with Nick Zito. All in favor of Nick Zito for this position, please signify by saying aye.
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 And all opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, he's not approved. And with that, we'll call on Frank DeLeo nomination. All in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? David Vogel and
Yeah. What is Frank DeLeo's party affiliation?
I believe he's a Republican.
I think you're right.
Yeah. We're doing the vote. Are you voting?
He is, that's right. He is a Republican. I didn't have his, I did not have a resume from him in my packet, nor did I ever see that. So I feel like we
It
weren't.
was sent out yesterday.
It was included in the packet. It's in the form of a letter.
I guess so much of this came in as a late minute. I don't still see that in any of the things I received, which were voluminous, and I have them all printed out. The reason that I'm voting no is because the Republican Town Committee, through their nomination process, nominated Nick Zito, who has eminent qualifications. As Beth, you pointed out when we reviewed his application numerous times ago, you said, oh, it looks like he would be great for inland water. And I just, I do understand that this is how politics works, but it does seem to me that we're not really considering the individuals as much as we are just voting along party lines.
Okay, thank you. So David Lober, have you voted or are you not going to vote on this?
I am not going to vote. I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Okay,
I would prefer Nick Zito, but I'm friendly with Frank DeLeo, and so I'm going to stay neutral in this fight.
okay, thank you. So with that, it's 4-2, and that carries. Okay, thank you. And with that, we get to item 15, which is executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206D. Discussion of Arbor Haven proposal to purchase former Country Club of Woodbridge property. And I will make a motion that we do so and invite into this executive session Attorney Weiner and Administrative Officer Tony Genovese. I make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Joe Crisco?
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kurikos?
Aye.
David Lober?
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin?
Aye.
And David Vogel.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll be in executive session, and I don't anticipate any action on this executive session, perhaps. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens, but
There shouldn't be any action on this.
okay, so it's more just a discussion. So I guess if the folks that are not invited in want to leave, it's okay. Good night.
We gotta come back.